Human trafficking is seen as serious issue when it occurs in every region in the world. United Nations has been defined human trafficking as a recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. Men, women, and children of all ages and from all backgrounds can become victims of this crime, which happen in the worldwide. The traffickers often use violence or fraudulent employment agencies and fake promises of education and job opportunities to trick and coerce their victims. This crime is indeed violating human rights against the victim wills. United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, who are trustfully agency to combating this crime, has stated that human trafficking is a global and one of the world's most shameful crimes, which is going to affecting the life of millions of people and robbing them of their dignity. Whereas sexual exploitation is the most well-known form for human trafficking, hundreds of thousands of victims are trafficked for forced labor, domestic servitude, child begging, or even organ removal. Nearly every country in the world is affected by human trafficking as a point origin, transit, or destination, and victims from at least 127 countries have been reported to have been exploited in 137 states. Human trafficking is a regional as well as a domestic crime, with victims trafficked within their own country, neighbor country, and between continents. For example, victims from East Asia have been identified in more than 20 countries throughout the world, including in Europe, the America, the Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa.
Now on to the questions on how does human trafficking affects the survival of a nation state and how does it influence the development of just international system. Well, when we think about it, I would like to argue using one of Joseph Nye argument. He stated that in order for a country to survive, they need to be able to execute their powers. And according to him, there is two types of powers, which is the hard powers and also the soft powers. Now, when we look at it, there are the norms change within the international system. As compared to the past, human right has considerably been put in a high pedestal as it was 50 or even 100 years ago. Nowadays, human rights issue or violation has seriously been condemned in the social media, especially with the rising of Generation Z. When you look at the violations of rights movement, for example, the Black Lives Matter or even Free Palestine movement, this is a clear sign that human rights is something that people are mostly support. And you as a human, you were born with rights just simply because you're human. Human trafficking is a violation of this right. We have universal declarations of human rights. We have a lot of international convention and a lot of international treaties that is against the violations of this human right. It against the act of human trafficking as it violates the rights of another human being that is not entitled to yours or anyone other than themselves to execute. Now, when you look at it, considering the huge amount of support in the international system on the advocacy of human rights, should a country were to allow human trafficking or even not take action when human trafficking takes place, I might as well say and dare to argue that they will receive a huge amount of critics and even condemnations or even sanction imposed to them from the members of the international system. Perhaps this could be seen in the justice on the Boko Haram as he openly violated human rights, or perhaps this could be seen with Milosevic being tried in the International Court of Justice for violating human rights. Despite the different crimes, it is still a core of the violations of human rights that brought them to be penalized and even charged on the trials by the ICJ. So, how does this affect the development of just international system? It ensures by stopping human trafficking or even promoting human rights. Thank you.
Now, as mentioned before, human trafficking is indeed a global issue and is considered a serious violation of human rights. Hereby, I will mention a few suggestions and ways to eradicate and curb human trafficking activities from taking place. Firstly, setting up a global task force. It is extremely pivotal to establish global task force that has a designated role in handling human trafficking cases around the world. Now, since most human trafficking cases are transboundary in nature, enforcing a set of rules that a nation state can obey to is extremely important. Now, you might question, what is the role of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, right? Well, the UDHR will act as the basis of the fundamental to the establishment of the global task force that will pretty much handle any international cases of human trafficking. Second is awareness. The word awareness is extremely important when it comes to efforts to eradicate human trafficking activities. Now, the lack of awareness over the issue has caused the prolongation of human being trafficked. So these efforts to create awareness should start as early as primary school all the way to adulthood. That way, children will be able to get exposure to good and the bad. Third, report any human trafficking cases. To further analysis, right, the awareness on how the public has towards the issue of human trafficking, I decided to interview one of my friends who is not an international relations student or not a politics student. She's a science stream student, and I decided to get some information from her about the awareness that she has towards the topic of human trafficking in the international politics.
Hi Sumita, so thank you so much for joining me today. Now, I've got a couple of questions to ask you. So, what do you know about human trafficking? I just want to know your basic understanding about human trafficking.
Personally, I believe human trafficking, like, it refers to like an act of trading human and exploiting them, like in a forceful manner.
Okay, did you just say woman?
No, in a forceful manner.
Okay, great. Okay, so now, do you think human trafficking is a global issue?
Yeah, definitely, it is.
Right. So why do you think it's a global issue? Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, anything against like a human, individual right is something that's wrong, right? Entirely wrong. So I think it's something serious.
Right. Because we see a great human right violation, in
Right.
human trafficking activities. Okay, so I believe we both are youth, right? So I would like to know, as a youth, right, yourself, what can we do to eradicate these human trafficking activities or the chain itself?
If you ask me, like, eradicating it, like completely get rid of it, and I think maybe journalists should play a more important role lah. The media should form like a certain perception and guide the public towards like human trafficking, like
Right.
give them the basic
All right. So,
understanding.
but do you think currently, whatever journalists, the social media platform that we have, or mass media, like what we say, do you think they don't play a good role in projecting human trafficking issues?
No, I don't think so. Recently, there's none. I think about maybe the one that I come across.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Sumita.
We have come to the final part of the video, which is the conclusion. So we concluded that we believe that human trafficking is indeed a global issue and should be tackled in a manner that it raises awareness at the same time, eradicate any chains that contributes to human trafficking. However, tackling this issue requires contribution from every level of the international system. From state actors to non-state actors, the role played by all these actors are important in raising awareness of human trafficking. We still have a group or community that are not very well aware of human trafficking and how it takes place. The vulnerable situation of these groups of people is what makes them victim to human trafficking. Building and cultivating awareness does not only come from an adult. it can be cultivated on children as young as 3 years old. We as the youth must work together on discussing topics related to human trafficking to the public. That is all from all of us. Thank you for watching the video.
Also, I forgot to mention that this is also a collaboration with Youth Against Slavery BN.
Trafficking in persons, to put it simply, is typically whereby an individual is put into an exploitative situation, usually by means of deception.